Bună ziua, and thank you again for the invitation. I think it's very nice to be back again this year with you in this context, difficult context of COVID. First of all, maybe a few words about FPPG, since we met 1 year ago. I'm very proud of the growth of our federation. Today we represent more than 90% of the oil and gas producers. We had recently Amromco and Expert Petroleum join FPPG. And we are also not only in the upstream, but also in the transport with Transgaz and Compet for oil and gas, and also in raffinery, where we have OMV Petrom Raffinery as member of FPPG. In terms of our objective for FPPG, just to highlight what we are looking for, we want to be really a partner for the main stakeholder to provide expertise, benchmark, and best practices in Europe that could help to develop Romanian market and Romanian oil and gas industry. And that's really what we are looking for. And we have been, I think, the last 2 or 3 years, bringing a lot of expertise and a lot of external studies to support and to help the liberalization of the gas market, the improvement of the tax system, etc., etc. And I think we want to continue in this debate, and especially as we saw during the first debate, the importance to have a debate on the offshore law. And of course, we will continue to be proactive on that and to bring some expertise on our side. In terms of your question, how is the sectors? I have to say sectors went through one of the biggest crises in the last 100 years. So in 2020, we had the decrease of oil prices before the COVID, then the decrease of demand after the COVID and during and after the COVID crisis. And we see today, just to give you a simple example, aviation is still reduced by more than 50% the demand. But also on the power side, there was a decrease of power side, so the impact on the gas producer for power. And in this context, I would like to give a big thank to all the members and all the employees of FPPG members who are working on the front line, especially on the drilling, but also in the raffinery, in the petrol station, and in the different sales office, because they manage to maintain the security of supply for the country. And I think that was really one of our priorities. Now, in this context, we have some concern, and I think Mr. Gal mentioned some impact we can see today in the gas production in Romania, but also oil production. In Romania, we are concerned about the lack of competitiveness. And that's something which is, we think, accelerated. And I want to mention a few things. So on the offshore law, we mentioned the level of tax, but it's not only the offshore, it's also the onshore. So today, when you look at the supplementary tax and royalties on gas, Romania is the country with the highest fiscal impact on producer. It was mentioned also this morning that we don't have a fiscal stability in the offshore law, which is really an issue when you think about the amount of investment. Again, that Mr. Gal mentioned, the amount of investment which is required to develop the Black Sea. Also, something which is very specific again to Romania is it's difficult for us to use the best tool we have in terms of digitalizations, in terms of access to cloud, access to artificial intelligence, to be able to use the upstream data to improve the efficiency and reduce the cost of the industry. And I think that's something really needs to move forward, and we have a lot of discussion with NMR, and we urge also the government to give the means for the regulator to be able to develop digitalization in terms of training and in terms of people. So I think it's important also that there is a support to the regulator to be able to go through a digitalization of the industry. And just another example in terms of constraint we are facing in Romania is the level of penalties. We discussed this morning, and I will come back about the gas release program. If the producer doesn't miss 1 kilowatt hour of gas or 1 cubic meter of gas, we can face a penalty of between 5 and 10% of the turnover. The regulator has the right from the legislation to penalize producer for very small mistakes, which is unique in Europe for such a program. And 5 to 10% of turnover from suppliers or producer, it's death or life. It's not the penalty which will improve your situation, or we'll say, okay, I improve my processes. No, you die. So I think we really have to review this in the legislation, this level of penalties. Now, okay, we have risk and what's the impact for Romania today and for the coming years. Mr. Gael mentioned the 75% decrease of wells. I think it's very worried, and we are very worried about that. Also, if you look at the gas production, by 2025, we expect to double the import of gas in Romania. So to move to 40% import in gas if there is no further development in the Black Sea. Now, coming back to the evolution of the gas market, as it was discussed this morning, especially by Mr. Dragan and by the official from the government. Yes, we agree. There are some good news. And I think we have seen some good evolution since the 1st of January. First of all, liberalization of the market, of the gas market from 1st of July. The increase of interconnection, and Bursa was mentioned, but also with Bulgaria, and also the connection with Trans-Balkan to the national transmission system. That's all good news. Also, the abolition of the central market obligation, which didn't work. It was something which was create artificial trades on the market, and it was really had to be replaced. And we have seen an increase of the liquidity on the market since March, even before the gas release program, an increase of the liquidity. And I like to mention, that between March and June, the liquidity on the forward, not on the spot, not on the day ahead, but on the forward months ahead and quarter ahead or year ahead, the liquidity in Romania was equivalent to Austria. So a very big change compared to historical liquidity. Now, the gas release program. In terms of our federation, our members, we have been very active in the consultation from the regulator with consumers, suppliers, and there was let's say, a consensus about how the gas release program should be designed. Unfortunately, I will say there was some intervention at the end, and that's I think, unfortunately, to increase the volume of the gas release program. So 40% of the gas production, which is much too high when you compare to the level of equivalent gas release program in Europe, which is rather 10%. We say in Romania we could go up to 20%, but I think to move to 40% was really an issue, and I will explain why. Because you don't have also so many competitors on the market as such, on the supply side. And the gas storage were quite full at the end of the winter. So when we went as producer for the auction of the gas release program, there was a little demand. So the gas price, the second problem we had was the regulator decided to fix the starting price at SEG minus 5%, so 95% of SEG price, which was well below the Romanian gas price. Yes, the impact for consumer, we could say was positive. This is the impact, but I want to say for which customers, because at the end, the household, the consumer of the household, I'm not so sure they have really benefit from this decrease of prices. And also the impact on the local production is massive. We had from June, since the gas release program has been introduced, from June to the end of September, the gas production has reduced by 19%, so nearly 20% reduction of gas production in Romania. We started the gas release program with prices we were below, so fixed by the regulator, below our cost of production. And I think Mrs. Pruna mentioned this issue about the arbitration, which was decided by the regulator. It's a bit, I take an example. If you take we can say gas is very important for the economy, of course, but the car is also very important for the industry, for the population. Can you imagine the state decided that Dacia should sell the Duster below its cost of production because for the Romanian to drive the Romanian people? I mean, what will be the impact of that? Of course, it will be review your investment in the country. And I think we have to be careful when we take measures. We create an artificial price on the market for the commodity and not based on supply demand. The other risk we see potentially, and we see since a couple of weeks or months now, that you have now traders active on the gas release program who don't have consumer customers in Romania. So the main objective is, because the gas release program prices are quite low, is to export the gas. So we are going in the winter in a situation which is, I don't think, that comfortable. If I come back to Mr. Dragan's position, where we say that yes, in the winter time there is a lot of gas in storage, but we know that during the winter, local production plus storage in terms of daily capacity withdrawal is not enough to fulfill the demand, the winter demand. So you need import. If you have less local production because of export, you will need even more import. And the import price is not a GRP price. The import price will be fixed by, the Russian formula mainly. So you have, we don't know how we'll finish the price for the winter, but I'm concerned that, by the impact of low prices on the impose to local producer, we will finish by increasing the import, and at the end increasing the price if the import price is higher. So we have to be careful when we talk about prices, that we have short-term gain, and I agree with that. Some customer benefit, especially the industrial customers, but in the long term, we have to be careful about the balance between local production and import. So to conclude, I think my main message is, yes, as a members of FPPG, we want to continue to invest in Romania. We see opportunities, and Black Sea is definitely one of the biggest opportunities. There are also still some opportunities in oil and gas onshore, but Black Sea, of course, is the biggest investment we can foresee. But we need to definitely, for Romania, to restore the competitiveness of the country. And for that, as we mentioned before, we need to change the offshore law. We need to review the tax for onshore and offshore, and to review also the gas release program, where we think the volume is too high, and to impose a 5% discount on the starting price doesn't make any sense today in the international context. And I think the time is right. We have now 6 months of experience of gas release program. Let's make sure now that we have a review and we improve against this gas release program.
Okay, questions now? Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So you are not that comfortable for this winter, like the authorities, you said. Can you tell us how much do you estimate the total decrease of the production for this year, first of all?
We will see. I think this year we will be around 10% decrease versus last year, maybe a bit more, but at minimum 10% decrease. What I'm saying for this winter, I think gas will flow because the interconnection are there, but the gas price, we don't know what will be the gas price. That's what we should not think that the import of price will be based on the GRP price.
Okay, and taking this into consideration, what do you think the perspectives will be for next year regarding the production? Also, the gas price, I have to ask, you can answer what you feel, and what will be the factors that will influence these indicators next year, and what, of course, are your expectations from the authorities?
I will start maybe with the last point. As mentioned in my conclusion, I think it's very important to give confidence again for producer to invest in Romania. I think that's and to make sure Romania is competitive as a country versus the neighboring countries. And I'm not talking about versus country far away. I'm talking about Bulgaria, Turkey. I mean the people who are active in the Black Sea. So we will need to make sure we restore this competitiveness. We make it easier also, I didn't mention permitting, but permitting is still an issue in Romania in terms of timing, in terms of length, in terms of regulation. We need to make sure it's more digital, easier for producer, which will help the country, because if we produced earlier, the country benefit earlier as well. So to spend more time in administration, bureaucracy doesn't help the country. So that's important to for the country as such. In terms of next year gas price, is very difficult to forecast, I have to say, you know, and mainly because we had when you see the volatility on the gas price this year was quite important. And I'm talking about TTF. We start with the West Europe gas price, when we have seen a big drop and then a big increase from July to September. And now we see that, you know, LNG gas is, there was a lack of LNG coming to Europe due to the several weather conditions, but also the COVID impact, etc. We need to follow that. You know, the LNG will come back, but that will have a pressure on the gas price in West Europe. And in Central Europe, I have to say, still we depend on the winter temperature. So what will be the weather this winter? If we have a cold winter, because then we definitely depend on import. And the import gas, you know, will be more expensive than the gas release program, that's for sure. You know, we see today import from the Russian gas, it's above 70 lei, 75 lei per megawatt hour. So it's well above the Romanian GRP price at the moment. So that's a risk in terms of pushing the price up, depending on also on the weather for that. Now on the production side, I'm still not optimistic because we don't see any movement at the moment. So we see with the COVID crisis impact on oil and gas company, reduction of investment. You know, this year we had a 25% roughly reduction in upstream investment, and we need to restore the confidence for that.
Okay, thank you. And last question. At the forum we had last year, you made the statement of the day, if you remember. At that time, you said that last year we were close to blackout twice. So I want to ask you now, how are we standing? Are we still close to blackout? Can it happen again?
I saw it, somebody else.
Again, but
I have to say, a few months ago, there was an article in the press, mention it again. So I see it, it's not...
it was a big deal.
Yeah. I think, you know, we could use the same example for power and for gas. You know, the situation on the power producer is also difficult, you know, in terms of incentivized to invest in Romania. And I think that's an issue. Mr. Dragan mentioned that the modernized fund should help, and it's true. And I think that's really the where I see really the benefit for Romania and for increasing of power capacity in Romania is to use a modernized fund to help to get a better return on investment, because today we cannot invest because we don't have the return on investment. So I think that's important to have this modernized fund. What I also urge the government in that, because we don't know yet the criteria of selection, is to make sure that private companies and public companies have a fair competition. You know, that we are, because private companies have the experience to deliver projects on time, on budget, and I think it's important. I don't say state company don't do that, but I think it's important that we have this cooperation between private and public companies to make sure we use as much as possible of the funds and we deliver the project on time for Romania. Because if not, yes, the blackout risk is still there. So I think if we don't deliver the project on time, there could be a risk as such. At the moment, of course, the risk has decreased because of the COVID situation. The demand has decreased. So if you have less demand, you have less issue in terms of the supply demand. But hopefully we are going to get out from this crisis, and the economic growth from next year will impact the growth of electricity demand. We have, of course, an impact on electricity demand. So that's why it's important to for this 10D to make sure the speed and the access to the fund is as quick as possible to create new project, new capacity. And I'm very proud that in our members, we have applied our members have applied for a project in the power sector. So to be able to produce either photovoltaic or gas to power.
Thank you very much for sharing with us your opinions. Please stay with us longer. You want to say something, please?
Yeah, I would say I was also pleased to see Mr. Gell statement that Black Sea is a new North Sea. So that's very good. But let's make sure we are successful in terms of bringing the gas to the market, because I think that's the most important. Yeah.